let's enter a constituent record. Project Harmony has 3 order of entries. The first one is the Bio 1 tab. Then you're going to be putting in the addressee and salutation tab. And then would come in the gift tab. Typically, we start off at the Bio 1 tab. However, right now we're in the record, in the constituent search, and let's open a new individual record. The reason we came here was because when we did a quick find, we couldn't find the individual that I needed to save this gift to, so I need to create a new constituent record. The person that gave me the gift is Betty Smith. Let's type in her last name and her first name. Again, we're in the Bio 1 tab. We can say that her middle initial is D, and she is a Mrs. We know this because she filled out her gift form saying Mr. and Mrs. Joe Smith. And we know that her husband's name is Joe. So we're going to continue down the row here. We know that Betty is a female. She is married. We can drop down and click married here. Or what I even do, make it go shorter, type in M and married. Click tab and you can go to the next. When I tab over, I'm at address. We need to type in their address. That's their address. Notice that here we typed out south and typed out street. I prefer if we type out the words in full. It makes it look a little bit nicer and a little bit more tidy. They live in Omaha, Nebraska, 68. Just type in the zip, 68. Oh my gosh, 37. When I tab over, I come down to my phone. If you have a phone number or an email for that individual, type it in here. Let's say that they gave us an email address. You can type it in here. I'm going to make one up. I tabbed over and they gave me a phone number, so I'm going to type in a phone number. I'm again making this up. In the next tab, the next inclination would be to add the spouse, but when we hit spouse, this box comes up. The required field is missing, primary addressee. So when I press OK, it's going to take me to our next tab, our addressee and salutation tab. To make it easier on yourself, just note that you're not going to be able to enter a spouse until you've gone over and entered in the primary addressee and the primary salutation. Now, the easy thing about this is we have set up our Importomatic to click certain row down. So we need to, for primary addressee, we need to have this second row down. It says Mrs. Betty D. Smith. That's the formal way. And then the primary salutation, we need to scroll down and it's either one of these is fine. It's her first name. Notice I'm not pressing editable. Then the type, we need to do publication name. And then the publication name is all the way down here at the very bottom. It's the last one, and it's Betty Smith. Now, since we've entered this, we can go back to our Bio 1 tab and hit spouse. Do we want to save it? We say yes. Let's type in the last name now of her spouse. So Betty is the constituent record, and she has a spouse. Her spouse is Joe. Let's type in his last name, Joe. Didn't give me a middle name, that's fine. Let's type in Mr. If he was a doctor, let's just say he is a doctor. We can press doctor. To make it easier on myself, I'm just typing it in, but you could just drop down and search for all of these. Down here in relationship, you can type in spouse, or I like to do husband. Press save. Oh, before we save, you can notice that the address and all the email and phone numbers have been populated. Let's save and close. You can see Joe Smith is now her spouse. Let's pop on over back to our addressee and salutation tab and take a look at what it's done. Since we didn't click editable, it auto-populated the rows for us. So, since we had previously clicked the second one down, it says Mrs. and Dr. Betty Smith. Well, that's not the correct way of putting it. So, let's change it and say the third one down, Dr. and Mrs. Joe Smith. That sounds about right because he is the doctor and she is the wife. Joe is always the primary one to be listed. The husband usually is. That's just the proper way of putting it. So we're going to say Dr. and Mrs. Joe Smith. The next one down in primary salutation, autofilled as well. That looks correct to me. Betty and Joe would be the primary way of addressing it. Then down at the publication name, Betty and Joe Smith was populated, and that is also correct. Basically, since we didn't press editable, all the information from the Bio 1 tab transferred into the addressee and salutation. The reason the primary addressee gave us some problems was because Betty is the primary addressee, the primary constituent on this record, and she is not the spouse. So it's taking the wife and switching it with the husband. Typically, some organizations like to only put the husband in the primary constituent as the primary constituent, but here at Project Harmony, I'm okay with using it either way. So the next step would be to add a gift, and we'll go in to that information in a little while. But that is exactly how you enter in a constituent record. If we would like to save this, we would do save and close. Thank you.